Deanna. If you wanna be somebody, if you wanna go somewhere, you better wake up and pay attention. If you wanna be somebody, if you wanna go somewhere, you better wake up and pay attention.
Now, Herman J. Russell, if you've never heard of him, is probably the most successful black real estate developer that has ever lived. He's primarily responsible for the development of Hartsville Airport, which some people say is the busiest airport in the country. Also, Mercedes-Benz Arena. That's where the Atlanta Falcons play, home to Dion. And so many other projects all across this country, Herman J. Russell was integral. So, in this particular episode, we're going to not only celebrate the life of Herman J. Russell, because it's Black History Month, but also we're going to show you power moves. In particular, 3 power moves that really propelled him and allowed him to scale his portfolio, scale his business to the point where he became the most successful black real estate developer in America. And hopefully you're going to be able to analyze those power moves and use those same power moves in your life and on your journey to creating generational wealth. Herman J. Russell was born with a speech impediment in the racially segregated South. Growing up, kids and both adults used to tease him because of that speech impediment. Herman wanted to open a shoe sign stand one day and went down to the city hall to apply for a permit and was laughed out of the office. However, at 16 years old, he purchased his first property for $125. In 1946, that same property, Herman built a duplex from leftover material that his father, a master plasterer, had saved from various jobs and job sites. Herman went on to develop numerous other projects, but he used the HUD Section 236 program to really build affordable housing units all over Atlanta. Rumor has it that he never lost a HUD bid. Many landowners during that time would not sell to blacks. In fact, many landowners restricted sales to blacks right in their deed to their property. But when Herman developed a relationship with a white man called Jim Conklin, it was that friendship that allowed Herman to buy properties and scale his business very rapidly. Jim served as the front man to Herman's operation, and through that friendship, they were able to amass a tremendous portfolio right in Atlanta and surrounding areas. In 2014, Herman J. Russell died, leaving the legacy as the largest black developer to have ever done it. It's almost impossible to tell the story of Atlanta real estate without recognizing the life of Herman J. Russell. So,
Soaring Scholars Awards. Rising Scholars Awards.
you get another chance, Small. I don't hustle like that. I hustle like this. There's not a second left. You know that tomorrow I'm hustling like there's only one more second left of this hustle.
Don't bother me, I'm working. 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 Don't work it.
Can't you see I'm on the phone? Don't be coming over here with that shit when I'm
working.
Call me Mr. Combs and I'm 9 digits strong. Hating on me, but it's 9.
Working.
When I was 19, I walked in the house and I told my mama she could stop.
Working.
When you used to beatbox on the block, Big and D-Rock, they was getting that.
Working.
Then I linked up with some from my hood who was known for putting that.
Working.
And if your record ain't half, then your song wasn't
working.
Ran into this young Joan, tell her come home, she asked for a check, I said, was you
working?
Now every time she call, I don't even pick up, I just hit her with the text line.
Don't bother me, I'm working. Don't bother me, I'm working.
Yeah, put your hands together.
Don't bother me, I'm working. Don't bother me, I'm working.
Yeah, oh, I ain't finished.
Don't.
Picture a tropical place where the sunsets are beautiful, the skies are a plethora of soothing colors, and the beaches make it an exotic paradise. However, that is not what was happening in the Caribbean islands you think of today. History says otherwise. That is, Black history. Early days of sugarcane uses date back to New Guinea 10,000 years ago. Sugarcane was considered an ancient delicacy that was rather ordinary until the process of refining sugar was first discovered in India, most likely during the first millennium BC. It was perceived to be little more than an exotic spice, medicinal glaze, or a sweetener for wealthy palates. Cane was a heavy and cumbersome crop that had to be cut by hand, immediately ground to release the juice inside, or it would spoil. Ultimately, the introduction of sugar slavery in the New World then changed everything. Countless indigenous lives were destroyed, and nearly 11 million Americans were enslaved, just counting those who survived the Middle Passage. White gold drove trades in goods and people, fueled the wealth of European nations, and, for the British in particular, shored up the financing of their North American colonies. The success of sugar slavery was the precursor to cotton slavery in America. Historically, people of color harvested the sugar from sugarcane, but were not its wealthy consumers. Many African Americans even tried to own or rent their own sugarcane farms in the late 19th century, but were faced with bold efforts to limit black farm and land owning. Those who were able to acquire land to grow and harvest cane were ousted, as white farmers were discouraged from doing business with their black and brown counterparts. This information underscores a painful history between sugar and black and brown people. Ironically, today, black and brown people have such an affinity for sugar that diabetes is more prevalent amongst African Americans. According to statistics from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, non-Hispanic African Americans are 60% more likely to be diagnosed with diabetes than non-Hispanic white Americans. In addition to having higher rates of diabetes, Black Americans are also more likely to experience complications from diabetes. Older research suggests that African Americans have a higher rate of type 2 diabetes based on genetics and environmental factors. Knowing these facts should encourage you and the community to get moving. Change your relationship with sugar by consuming less, following a low-fat diet, and exercising. The Herman J. Russell West End Academy wants you to remember a still life is a piece of artwork, not a way of living. Your fate is not determined by your zodiac sign. So keep moving, eat right, and enjoy that healthy lifestyle that the Atlanta Beltline community has to offer you.
Friendly announcer. I have serious news to pass on to everybody. What I'm about to say could mean the world's disaster, could change your joy and laughter to tears and pain. It's that love in need of a love today. Don't delay, send yours in right away. Hate's going round, breaking many before it's gone too far. The voice of evil plans to make you its possession, and it will if we let it destroy everybody. We all must take precautionary measures. If love and peace you treasure, then you'll hear me when I say, oh, that love's in need of our love today. Don't delay, send yours in right away. Haze go round, breaking many hearts. Stop it, please, before it's gone too far. People, you know that love's in need of love today. Don't delay, send yours in. Hey, go round, breaking many hearts. Love's in need of love today. Don't delay, send yours in right away. Haze going round, breaking hearts. Don't delay, send yours in right away.
Throughout Mae Jemison's life, excelling in one area has never been enough. Sure, we know her as the first African-American woman in space, but there's so much more that makes Jemison extraordinary. Mae grew up in Chicago, where like most kids, she dreamed of being a fashion designer, archaeologist, or astronaut. She decided at an early age she would go to space. Astronauts back then were exclusively white and male, but those aboard the USS Enterprise on Star Trek were different, particularly Lieutenant Uhura, and that allowed young Mae to see someone that looked like her in space. Even as a kid, she was extraordinary. She graduated high school at 16 and went to Stanford. She double majored in chemical engineering and African and Afro-American studies. During her junior year, she had to decide if she should be a doctor or a professional dancer, which were both legitimate options for her. She chose medical school and even worked in a Cambodian refugee camp in Thailand. And she didn't just become a doctor. In 1983, she became the Area Peace Corps Medical Officer for Sierra Leone and Liberia in West Africa. She managed all the healthcare for the Peace Corps, wrote manuals for self-care, researched rabies with the CDC, and was in charge of medical care for the U.S. Embassy. And she was 27. After 2 years there, she returned to America and began working as a general practitioner in Los Angeles and took graduate-level engineering classes at the same time. And even then, she was still like, I could do more. So she applied to become an astronaut in 1985 and wasn't deterred when the Challenger exploded the next year. She reapplied and was selected out of 2,000 applicants to train to be an astronaut.
And liftoff of Space Shuttle Endeavour.
September 12, 1992, Jemison made history when she took off aboard the Endeavour for 8 days in space. As a science mission specialist, her job was to conduct experiments on the crew on motion sickness and bone cells. After her big dream was realized, Jemison decided to take it easy. As an environmental studies professor at Dartmouth College, starting an educational nonprofit, a science camp, and serving as principal for 100 Year Starship, an initiative working to travel beyond our solar system in the next 100 years. Oh, and in 1993, she guest starred on Star Trek: The Next Generation. Jemison has gone back and forth on this whole role model thing. She didn't really want to be the poster child for black female astronauts, but she did want young girls, and the old white men that would hire them someday, to see that your race or gender doesn't limit you.
Perfect Attendance Awards. Connections Awards.
November 14th, 1960, was the first day of first grade for 6-year-old Ruby Bridges of New Orleans. That was also a memorable date in American history. It was the first day of court-ordered desegregation of the New Orleans public school system. Back in 1954, the Supreme Court declared the racial segregation of public schools unconstitutional. More than a year later, some African-American parents in New Orleans sued the school board for failure to comply with the court's ruling. Finally, after almost 5 years of legal wrangling, a federal order was issued, demanding the gradual desegregation of New Orleans schools, beginning with the first grade. So, in November 1960, Ruby was one of only 4 black students starting first grade at the previously all-white schools. Ruby attended William Frantz Elementary. The other 3 went to another school. Federal marshals escorted Ruby past a rioting white mob into the building. All of the teachers except one refused to teach while a black child was enrolled. And within that first week of classes, nearly all of the white students in the schools had withdrawn. In Ruby's class, she and the teacher were the only 2, and it stayed that way for the rest of the school year. Despite the continued threats and retaliation against her family, Ruby remained at Frantz Elementary, and in 1961, she advanced to the 2nd grade.
Special awards.
Buy it, use it, break it, fix it, trash it, change it, mail, upgrade it, charge it, point it, zoom it, press it, snap it, work it, quick erase it, write it, cut it, paste it, save it, load it, check it, quick rewrite it, plug it, play it, burn it, rip it, drag it, drop it, zip unzip it, lock it, fill it, call it, find it, view it, code it, jump and lock it, surf it, scroll it, pose it, click it, cross it, crack, name it, touch it, bring it, pay it, watch it, turn it, leave it, start, format it, buy it, use it, break it, fix it, trash it, change it, mail, upgrade it, charge it, point it, zoom it, press it, snap it, work it, quick erase it, write it, cut it, paste it, save it, load it, check it, quick rewrite it, plug it, play it, burn it, rip it, drag it, drop it, zip unzip it, lock it, fill it, call it, find it, view it, code it, jump and lock it, surf it, scroll it, pose it, click it, cross it, crack it, switch, update it, name it, read it, tune it, print it, scan it, send it, fax, rename it. Technologic. Buy it, use it, break it, fix it, trash it, change it, mail, upgrade it, charge it, point it, zoom it, press it, snap it, work it, quick erase it, write it, cut it, paste it, save it, load it, check it, quick rewrite it, plug it, play it, burn it, rip it, drag it, drop it, zip unzip it, lock it, fill it, call it, find it, view it, code it, jump and lock it, surf it, scroll it, pose it, click it, cross it, crack it, switch, update it, name it, read it, tune it, print it, scan it, send it, fax, rename it, surf it, scroll it, pose it, click it, cross it, crack it, switch, update it, name it, read it, tune it, print it, scan it, send it, fax, rename it, touch it, bring it, pay it, watch it, turn it, leave it, stop, format it, buy it, use it, break it, fix it, trash it, change it, mail, upgrade it, charge it, point it, zoom it, press it, snap it, work it, quick erase it, write it, cut it, paste it, save it, load it, check it, quick rewrite it, plug it, play it, burn it, rip it, drag it, drop it, zip unzip it, surf it, scroll it, pose it, click it, cross it, crack it, switch, update it, name it, read it, tune it, print it, scan it, send it, fax, rename it, touch it, bring it, pay it, watch it, turn it, leave it, stop, format it, buy it, use it, break it, fix it, trash it, change it, mail, upgrade it, charge it, point it, zoom it, press it, snap it, work it, quick erase it, write it, cut it, paste it, save it, load it, check it, quick rewrite it, plug it, play it, burn it, rip it, drag it, drop it, zip and zip it, surf it.
Watch it. Lift, 2, 3, 4.
We begin this half hour with the story of a man whose courageous photography helped awaken America at the dawn of the civil rights era. He was a master of portraying people from every walk of life. But for years, some of Gordon Parks' most important early work seemed lost. Now a new generation of Americans can see it for themselves.
In the summer of 1956, in the aftermath of the Montgomery bus boycotts, Life magazine sent a photographer to Alabama for an essay on segregation. The man who took these pictures, Gordon Parks, was Life's first black photographer who saw his camera as a weapon.
I see a poor child, distraught mother, something of that sort. It's not important at that particular moment that I express my feelings, but it's important that I let the world know what they are thinking and what they're going through. And so I become an instrument for them. And I think that's what the camera does in that instance. That's sort it serves a purpose.
In September of 1956, Life published 26 of Parks' photographs. And while he later exhibited some of the shots, the bulk of Parks' work from that assignment was thought to have been lost until a few years ago.
So this is the archive where all of Gordon Parks' works are kept.
When 6 years after his death, archivists for the Gordon Parks Foundation came upon this.
This is the box?
This is the box right here that the work was in.
It's wrapped in tape?
But inside, says the head of the foundation, Peter W. Kuhnhart Jr., were more than 200 color slides.
And see, if you look on the back here,
Yeah.
Negro and white children playing together.
What does this one say?
Segregated Dairy Queen.
Mobile, Alabama.
This photograph of this classroom, which is just a black classroom, looks like something that you'd see in the 1800s. To think that this was 1956.
The foundation made prints. The photographs, many never seen before, are now on exhibition at the High Museum in Atlanta and at the foundation's new headquarters in Pleasantville, New York.
So this is Andrea Tanner and her granddaughter looking into a white clothing store. It's sort of the life that she doesn't have. And you know, Gordon really didn't stage these pictures. He would follow them around and sort of just observe what they were doing.
These are just pictures of life as it was happening.
Life as it was happening.
Images from an ordinary day in the segregated South. Children peering through a fence at a forbidden playground.
And this photograph is of the mailman.
This is the mailman?
This is the mailman right here.
In the pith helmet?
In the pith helmet. He is reading the mail to this couple because they're illiterate.
A woman and child outside an Alabama movie theater.
This photograph did not appear in Life magazine and turned out to be one of Gordon's most iconic civil rights photographs.
The woman in the picture, Joanne Wilson, went on to become a respected high school teacher of government and economics. In 2013, she was honored at the Gordon Parks Foundation's annual dinner.
I'm so proud of his work.
Joanne Wilson died the following year.
This is France.
In his lifetime, Gordon Parks became one of the world's most acclaimed photographers. He shot the beautiful, the gifted, the powerful, and the poor.
AB Honor Roll.
Thurgood Marshall was born in Baltimore, Maryland on July 2, 1908. Thurgood's father, William, loved the Constitution. When Thurgood was punished for bad behavior, his father made him read the Constitution over and over again. Having to read it so many times, Thurgood started to pay attention to and value the ideas contained in the Constitution. Segregation existed in Thurgood's world. Segregation meant that blacks and whites were treated differently. For instance, they could not attend the same schools together. They couldn't eat at the same table in restaurants or drink out of the same drinking fountains. Thurgood tried to enroll at the University of Maryland Law School, but was denied admittance because the school was for whites only. Instead, he enrolled in an African-American university named Howard University. As Thurgood studied law, he began to realize how important it was that every right in the Constitution be given to whites and blacks alike, that all men are created equal and should be treated as such. Thurgood Marshall took many cases to court that challenged segregation and won most of them. He even helped the first black man become a student at the University of Maryland, which changed the way students were selected there. This was the same school Thurgood was not allowed to attend when he was a young man. Thurgood became the chief lawyer for the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, NAACP. One of his important cases broke the barrier between blacks and whites in public schools. United States President Lyndon B. Johnson saw the great value Thurgood brought to the nation. He appointed Thurgood as the first African American to serve on the Supreme Court, the highest court in the nation. Thurgood Marshall spent his professional career fighting for the rights of African Americans. He championed the cause of equal rights for all Americans, regardless of their race.
Principals list.
During the early years of the Civil Rights Movement, the Boston Bruins made a player move that generated little attention at the time, but in retrospect, made hockey history. On January 18, 1958, Willie O'Ree skated onto the ice of the hallowed Montreal Forum wearing a Bruins sweater. When he did, he became the first black man to play in an NHL game.
It must be quite an exciting thing, isn't it, to get into an NHL game for the Boston Bruins. What do you feel about it, Willie? Anything unusual?
No, it was the greatest thrill of my life, I believe. I'll always remember this day.
The fact the Bruins were the first team to integrate was really a nice highlight in the history of the Bruins that didn't necessarily result in a trophy being won, but was evidence of a team that did the right thing.
He was accepted very well. He was a player, and that was it. He was treated the same way as anybody else.
I have a lot of respect for Willie. He went through a lot of tough times when he first came up, but he was able to accomplish what he wanted to.
O'Ree was looked to be the last one to touch it.
The element of that story that was not known at the time, which makes it even more remarkable, was the fact that Willie was legally blind in one eye and no one knew that, yet he was able to overcome that, as well as becoming the pioneer that he was, is really pretty amazing.
A trailblazer, Willie O'Ree's strength of character opened doors for future generations.